2022 is utter madness for MMOs. And if you've planned to do anything in February, you know what? Just think again. Not only is it a stupid busy month for games, it's also absurd for MMO gamers. So today you're going to get a lay of the land, you're going to see what to look out for, and also what we're going to be covering and focusing on. So let's just jump in. The mad month of February sees Lost Ark's Western version come out on the 11th. And this game has so much, there's no wonder it's captured the minds of so many people. Obviously, there is the big worry stemming from the Russian version, mainly for PvE, and that is the pay-to-win stuff. Suffice to say, those concerns are founded. Matt on the team, of course, Matt has been diving into this, and it seems that things may actually turn out pretty okay for the Western launch. Obviously, it will be hard to tell until we've got a full unveiling of the Western shop. But as a game, thing bangs. Combat's incredible. Like, seriously excellent. It feels great, and I have heard nothing but praise for its raid content, and certainly what I've looked at seems great. Also, it's not a multiplayer action RPG. That's kind of what it looked like, I mean, obviously, to me at first, and I kind of wrote it off a little, but no, it is a full MMO, and that means there's a lot more to do. There's the mini-games, there's your personal stronghold customization, there's all the PvP, there's actually a large enough story, and a whole bunch more. I mean, if you look at the stuff that they didn't get to ship this year, but I believe are shipping in Korea at least in 2022, I mean, they've got this whole pirate ship dinosaur island thing. Yeah. So it seems like Lost Ark basically has it all, also having loads and loads of customization and stuff. So, provided the cash shop doesn't tank this game, I really think we could be dealing with a serious hit in the West. And they certainly have loftiest expectations for how far this game could go based on the presentation from the Lost Ark team that we watched. And of course, much like Lost Ark, we are free to watch with cosmetics too. So if you want to get some cosmetics, hit up our Patreon. Here's the Griffin pin. And of course, the rest of the art as well. All over there on Patreon, some nice art to deck yourself out with, some fun pins to collect, so you can head down below with that link. And hey, it is the best way to support us. Okay, on to the next thing in crazy February. February onslaught continues with Star Wars: The Old Republic, Legacy of the Sith, which comes out on the 15th. Look, The Old Republic is a bit of a strange MMO, and in some ways it really is a BioWare RPG inside an MMO, right? It's funky. Now, I've played the Sith Warrior storyline, and I've played most of Knights of the Fallen Empire. And I'll say this, the story content is really quite brilliant. Like, the way that they do companions is generally great. I know there's not the most gameplay to it, but just having your hub be your own ship is neat for the player fantasy. Where this game has struggled a bit more, at least historically, was the kind of quantity of the endgame content and basically the update cadence, like the major patch cadence. Now, I get the sense that it's kind of hard to main The Old Republic as an MMO, but in a way, that's okay. You can do what many people love to do with FF14, and that is, when there's story, turn up, do it, and have fun. Now, The Old Republic has evolved over the years, with its modern story going through the whole Fallen Empire arc, and then going into a big galactic war between the Sith and the Republic. Seems like a fun thing, and that does seem to be what Legacy of the Sith is looking to continue in the usual fashion. You know, a big MSQ, you could say, that takes you through Planet Manan and a new level cap as well. So, what beyond that stuff then? Well, I was researching the new expansion. There's a Flashpoint, Elam. Now, these flashpoints are basically this game's equivalent to dungeons. They have a solo mode. In many cases, they have then, for difficulty for the group version, story, veteran, and master, right? So it's a neat enough system, and like with FF14, they kind of do the thing of adding flashpoints really as core parts of the story. So compared to other MMOs like World of Warcraft or something else, you don't get as many flashpoints as you would, say, dungeons and a lot of other MMOs. But what they do is they use their scaling and stuff to basically have all the flashpoints be in a queue, right? So they're still relevant to gearing, and you ascend the difficulties and get better stuff. So yes, you can still probably do Hammer Station a decade on. Beyond that, though, there's also a new operation. Operations are this game's name for raids. And I hear their operations are actually pretty solid, and Legacy of the Sith has got a space horror theme to its operation, and that seems pretty cool. And then for combat stuff, well, I think they're doing a bit of a prune in terms of abilities, so we'll have to see how all of the classes, or advanced classes as they call them, fare. But what they are doing is massively reducing restrictions, and this is pretty cool. So now your base classes like, say, Sith Warrior or Republic Trooper, those are pretty much just your origin story. Now, they're obviously still divided into tech and, Force users. But what it does mean is that you're able to select 2 advanced classes. Just, if your character's a Force user, they'll have to be Force advanced classes. And if your class is a tech user like a Trooper, then you have to use, a tech user advanced class. But it seems like they're putting in a lot of work there to try to make that experience better, which certainly sounds good. Then beyond that, I think they've updated elements of the UI, aspects of endgame gearing, and I'm sure a bunch more. I'd say overall, it doesn't seem like a massive amount of content as far as a really big MMO expansion pack goes, but they are going to be rolling out more over the year. So more story, master difficulty for the new raid, a PvP system revamp, and more galactic seasons, with the seasons basically just being their battle pass-like system. There's also going to be another flashpoint, so that's kind of neat. And then, something players have wanted for a long time in this game, technology, modernization, and visual improvements. Because, look, I actually think the game looks pretty solid. It's got that thing, it shows his art style, it's stuck to it, and that's usually a good move to make, but the hero engine certainly does have its quirks. I'll say that at the very least, this is one of those ideal MMOs to dabble in, and while personally I've got no particular love for Star Wars, I've always enjoyed the Old Republic era in the media that I've seen it in, and I've really enjoyed my forays into this game. So yeah, I'm probably going to abandon my boosted Outlander that I did to check out the Fallen Empire expansion, and instead, I think I'm just going to continue my Sith Marauder character from level 52 up to the cap. Hey, maybe there'll be a video series on it. End of Dragons. Yes, Guild Wars 2's next expansion launches February 2022, but oddly enough, we don't know exactly what day. So, what do we think of this game? Well, the narrative has generally been pretty good for Guild Wars 2, but they did recently with Icebrood have a controversial ending. It was fun watching Wooden Potatoes basically deal with what all of us Warcraft people dealt with whenever Blizzard completely ruined the character of N'Zoth. Unless it's a part of some 8D, 5-dimensional chess crazy madness. But this time anyway, for this expansion, we're going back to Cantha, which was in Guild Wars 1. So there'll be a lot of stuff there for the franchise vets, also stuff for the new people. Now, I'll say ArenaNet, they generally do a genre-leading job of their open world map design. And fitting with a expansion, there'll be a bunch of new maps. Now, in a development stream, they said they wanted to merge the best of what they've sort of done with the past expansions. It was kind of citing the traversal mechanics in Path of Fire, which of course added mounts, which is one of the best features of this game, and then all the verticality of Heart of Thorns. Then, in addition to that, expect watery maps because, along with fishing, there's also small multi-person skiffs that you can sail around on, so that's kind of neat. Now, fishing is not just for Cantha, it is something being expanded across the whole game, so I imagine, well, it's MMO fishing. It's a rabbit hole that you just fall into. There's also a new mount type, the Siege Turtle. It's 2-person, and this time it's a combat mount, so that seems kind of neat, because Guild Wars has got the best mounts in gaming. Seriously, I'd say almost no matter what your MMO is, it's probably going to lose to Guild Wars. Basically, the mounts all actually feel like whatever creature they are. It's way more innovative. I don't really like how it's monetized, but the different classes of mounts and how they control, how you use them, it just feels like really good gameplay. It's so impressive. Then also, they've added 5 new mastery tracks, fishing, skiffs, Siege Turtle, and then 2 others that I don't think they revealed yet. I could be out of the loop in that one. But basically, if you're generally not in the loop, masteries are their max level horizontal progression system. Then, of course, there's also a set of 16 legendaries. They've all got this crystal-y theme, which maybe is a bit of a downer for some people, but basically these legendaries are like that, big weapon to grind out. Then for PvE, well, it's Guild Wars 2. It's not really a big thing for raiding. I haven't seen much about fractals for this expansion, but we do know that there are 5 strike missions coming. Those will have hard modes. I imagine some fractal updates will happen. Now, those are basically those strike missions. They're like Final Fantasy XIV, sort of like one-off fights, like trials, maybe like a Nixia if you're a WoW player. Now, there's also going to be a new Cantha Guild Hall, then elite specs for each class, which realistically is a hell of a lot of gameplay, actually. Then, of course, there's almost certainly still more to hear. I believe this was originally supposed to come out in 2021, but they, of course, had to delay it, as many game companies have, and they don't seem to have done a massive amount more in terms of main marketing beats or, like, massive new reveals. There have been some dev streams showing off the new zones, so perhaps there's more to reveal. It's the sort of thing, this isn't a game like World of Warcraft where the beta for the new expansion means that you basically know everything it's going to have all the time. For me, I'd say Guild Wars 2 has really fun zones, it's got horizontal progression that's neat, it's got great customization, and it literally has the best mount system in gaming, insofar as the gameplay side goes. It does not focus on the MMO trappings that I'm used to, like endgame PvE and PvP that's maybe a bit more competitive. Of course, it does have its world v world. For instance PvE, like it does have stuff with like the fractals and the strike mission things, but it doesn't have that full, robust endgame that a lot of other MMOs have. It's just that thing. Guild Wars 2 did not invest stat points in the traditional MMO things. I think that's why it struggled to find an audience. It's kind of hard to communicate what Guild Wars 2 is to somebody. But I do at least respect them for going off on their own path and doing their own thing. At any rate then, we'll find out what's going on February of this year. Elder Scrolls Online. It's a strange blend of basically every business model, other than total free-to-play, all blended together and placed atop buy-to-play. Like they've got 2 different types of updates, chapters and DLCs. Chapters are analogous to expansions, while DLCs are analogous to patches. Now you have to purchase chapters, but the DLCs, they can be purchased individually, or if you get the ESO Plus subscription service that also gives you lots of quality of life perks, then you'll get access to all of the DLCs for no extra charge. So really, it's a bit confusing. But that said, the latest chapter is to be revealed January 27th, and we know that it takes us to a new place. And for a lot of people who have been invested in Elder Scrolls, its world, its lore for a long time, that's a really exciting thing. Timing-wise, nothing is confirmed, but if you look at the past, previous chapters have released every June since 2017, even through COVID, so I kind of expect that to continue. Now, ESO is a pretty unique MMO in a few ways. I mean, I can level in any zone, I can do whatever tickles my fancy, right? Though doing the main story in chronological order would make the most sense, and I think that's what I'm going to do for my proper dive into the game. I've not played it in ages, by the way, but I do remember my time in its Morrowind, its take on Vvardenfell. I remember it really fondly from a few years back, and people are beginning to sing the praises of its narrative. Then, I've seen a surprising amount of people actually say that the endgame PvE is really good these days. I wouldn't expect the quality of, say, an FF14 trial, but it seems pretty good. So, for me, the draw of this game is spending time in a world, the vibe of which I've always really liked, and if you're telling me that the story is great, that the progression is satisfying, and there's a fun endgame, that's the sort of thing that's going to sell me in something. So I absolutely need to check it out ahead of this chapter, which likely is going to come June 2022. FF14. Probably not February for its next thing, but pretty soon after. They're a reliable team. COVID delay aside, they basically had a history of a patch every 3 or so months, and I think we can expect that to continue. Patch 6.1, which contains the new PvP system and the player islands, it was originally slated for February, but I would expect that to slip to March given Endwalker's delay. Maybe it could end up being April. Beyond that, though, I mean, they've generally put a patch out every 3 and a bit months. So let's go. I can't wait. For the next expansion, I would, by the way, expect a reveal maybe early 2023 in that FanFest. Something along those lines. All right, next up. What do I even say about World of Warcraft? So normally we would know what the next expansion is by now, but COVID seems to have really hit Blizzard harder than most studios, and WoW is clearly behind. Probably a combination of work from home production issues, a loss of productivity because of staff attrition, which has been holding back many game companies, including, say, Ubisoft, who recently mentioned it, even though their annual attrition rate is like 4%. Well, I think theirs is 12, Activision Blizzard's is 16, but I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if theirs is, it's 16 on average, but maybe it's more clustered with Blizzard themselves. But whatever's happening, as well, I think they've had a little bit of a floundering creative direction for the game. Bunch more. It just seems to have all got in the way. Now, as it stands, patch 9.2 is on the public test realm without a release date, but people are expecting late February or March. Beyond that, it's anyone's guess with WoW. It's not like the days of Legion, where we could just say there was a patch every 77 days. The usual World of Warcraft cycle, of course, is a BlizzCon reveal, a few months wait, a 6-month-ish beta, and then there's a game to play. But that's well thrown off. If an announcement happened soon, but all other timing stayed the same, if they did an announcement almost immediately into a beta, then I could totally see a reasonable 2022 launch. But I think as it stands, we're either going for late 2022 or early 2023. I don't really know if patch 9.2 and Zereth Mortis can keep that going. Unless they have some sort of patch 9.2.5 with a big epilogue or something planned. I don't know. Honestly, I can't imagine that even the bigwigs are happy with the quantity or the quality of WoW's output lately, so who the hell knows? They have to get their act together soon. But at the very least, there's a lot of other games, like FF14, that are stepping up. Well, that's the usual suspects covered, isn't it? And there's quite a lot going on for most of them. There's a lot of other MMOs, though, and there's a lot of updates to existing ones, so who knows, perhaps another company will manage to re-release Arcade again and manage to not fuck it up. Wouldn't hold my breath in that. New World, that's going to continue to chug away, right? Amazon are slowly improving that experience. We'll just have to see, really. There's then loads of in-development games, like, say, Ashes of Creation. A few more slightly controversial ones, like Camelot Unchained, where people are beginning to have their eyebrows be raised. But I think a bunch of that stuff's not going to happen in 2022. Bless, that had a major update, or has one, coming in February. But, it's Bless. Kind of had issues in the West, didn't it? And that's the thing. There's so many MMOs these days. D&D Online, it has an expansion this spring. Rift, that has a major update coming. And then there's the games that you probably haven't heard of. There's a few space MMOs coming. There's an MMO from Taiwan called Odin Valhalla Rising, which is coming to the West, I believe, in 2022. There's a lot going on. We'll probably have another WoW Classic season in 2022, probably Wrath Classic coming in 2023. There's just so much. But today what I wanted to do was pare it down to the list of the usual suspects, the big MMOs, an update on where they're at, where they're going. So let me know if there is a hidden game out there or a game that you really feel deserves a deeper look or more coverage. To end, what falling out with WoW for a bit has taught me is to dabble. ESO, Guild Wars 2, FF14, The Old Republic. They're perfect dabbling MMOs. You can show up, have a great time, and that's that. Now, I'll admit, FF14 is probably the game I'm going to keep the most up to date with. But generally, it's a happy time. Being a multi-game dabbler basically means you never have a content drought. You can always try the cool new thing. So, I think that's how I'm going to play a lot of the genre now, really. Unless it turns out the Lost Ark really is everything it's made out to be, and that just eats everyone, and that's that. We're all playing Lost Ark forever. And even with World of Warcraft, I think I'm going to be more of a dabbler. We'll see. You could say it's out of morbid curiosity sometimes, or maybe at best, the final copium huff before I just settle in for Wrath Classic and keep tabs on it from afar. I would say I do think the next WoW expansion is basically their last chance to... It's their last chance to retain me. I'm not asking it. I'm not asking for the next WoW expansion to blow me away. All I want is to not have lots of friction and not have it constantly piss me off. If they can have an 8 out of 10 or like a 7 out of 10, but it just has no asterisks, no undue pain points, that would be enough. So it's just going to be whether we get that or not. But there you go. That's basically my summary of the upcoming major events for MMOs. Obviously, February is going to be a completely bonkers month, so that's what's going on. That's what I'm doing. Let me know then what you're doing, what MMOs you're really excited for. If you want to customize your own player character in real life, you can check out the Griffin pins on our Patreon this month, along, of course, with the art. But with that said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.